Hello, everybody. This is John Yeager with Bennett Thrasher. We have another episode of Think Business today. I'm very excited to have two colleagues on the call today, Cory Bennett and Adam Clayton. Welcome. And Cory, why don't I get you to say hello again? You've been on a couple of these, but maybe a refresher of your background and your role in the QSR space, which is what we're going to talk about, some of the staffing challenges facing the restaurants. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, John. Good seeing everybody again on these Think Businesses. But yeah, my name is Cory Bennett. I'm an audit partner here at Bennett Thrasher. I actually co-lead our restaurant hospitality practice. And so we're very concentrated in this industry. It's one of our biggest niche segments that we have at the firm, and one that we've really grown over the past several years. We do everything from QSRs to fine dining. But QSRs is a little bit of a kind of a hot spot for us, just given where we are in the Southeast and our relationship with Proliant and some others that we have. Is definitely something that's done very well for us. So we do everything from auditing to tax compliance. We've got accredited incentives practice. We do QB work, which has obviously been something that we do a lot of, especially in this environment. So that is actually a kind of a subset of what I do. Most of my work is on the audit side, but I do a lot of the quality earnings projects related to our restaurant segment as well. So just a little bit about myself, but I'll hand it back to you, John.
Thank you. And Adam, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, John. My name's Adam Clayton, Chief Financial Officer of Proliant. We're a human capital management company based in Atlanta, Georgia. Heavy presence in the Southeast, but we are a nationwide company, about 300 employees in total, with a heavy concentration in the QSR space. We kind of do fast casual, fine dining concepts as well. Just kind of grew up bread and butter in the in QSR world. So we do everything from technology outsourcing with onboarding, compliance, ACA, payroll is kind of one of the core competencies as well, in addition to benefit administration, time and labor, and other systems. But thanks for having me on the show today, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, today's episode is a follow-up to a campaign or to a series of talks we did previously, where we talked about the QSR space and we talked about integrations with accounting systems and other data sources and issues around that. And this starts off a kind of a discussion around bringing in the payroll side and the whole employee benefits side, which is obviously a big area of focus and interest and need for the restaurant industry during these times. So, this is a discussion around the staffing challenges that are facing the restaurants. And so both of you have so much connection with the industry, and you're out there talking to clients on a daily basis. Adam, what are you hearing overall from clients about the staffing challenges?
They're not going away is one. So it's, just with, there were issues on a pre-pandemic basis, obviously, in terms of just new functionality. They were just trying to do more with less, to be honest with you. I mean, the pool keeps getting smaller, but the demand keeps getting larger. So, when we're looking at a post-pandemic basis, as of right now, I think QSR out of the whole restaurant industry is probably down the least out of all of them. I think fine dining and really kind of the tipped bar restaurants are still hurting pretty bad. QSR is kind of ramped up quicker than them, but still not back to levels seen pre-pandemic. So, what we have seen a lot is that has caused really a push of burden of just administrative tasks to the manager level. So when you think about restaurants, you typically think about crew people, you think about swing managers, but when in actuality, it's the GMs and the people beneath the GMs that are getting burnt out with just a ton of administrative tasks that are getting pushed down to them. And a lot of it's just due to just ramping up hiring efforts, and a lot of it's to terminate or just ongoing turnover of employees. So when you think about QSR, that, multi-store operators, it's employees being shared amongst multiple locations. So you have overtime tracking issues, ACA eligibility tracking issues, in addition, just general wage and hour compliance issues associated with it.
Oh, excellent. Well, that kind of sums it up pretty well. Cory, how about you? What are you hearing from your clients?
Yeah, I echo a lot of the same things that Adam mentioned. It's funny how quickly kind of priorities changed in our industry. If you look at the beginning of this year, the the number one focus clearly was on, health and safety of, customers and employees. And then come April, when really everything opened up at once, there was such a demand for labor that it quickly shifted to recruitment and retention of those employees. And so that's kind of where things stand right now. And I was actually coming back from Asheville yesterday, and I can't tell you how many fast food restaurants I drove by that had, we're hiring on the sign, and a lot of them were work today, get paid tomorrow. I mean, they're coming up with very creative ways to retain and attract employees, just given the labor shortage that we're currently in. I mean, I think one of the biggest question marks that we're going to see is, right now, I think a lot of this, depending on who you talk to, is based off of some of the unemployment benefits that are currently out there. And, those are set to expire come September. And what does that mean as it relates to the labor force and the demand and the ability to be able to do that? And so I think a lot of clients are anticipating maybe a little bit of improvement after that. But at the same time, you're going to start competing with the holiday season and the ramp up of, various things. And so that's going to put additional pressure, if you will, on the labor force. And so, I think that's definitely something that we're going to see. Wages obviously is something that's always been a hot topic. Adam, I'm sure can relate to this a little bit, but that minimum wage rate continues to get a lot of scrutiny in this industry. And obviously, folks are being creative with wages right now to attract, and I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later today. So I think it's tough, especially not only labor, but you've got commodity inflation, you've got supply chain issues, you've got service issues, you've got all kinds of things that are happening that are impacting the bottom line. And I just don't know if you can push that all to the customer. I'm not sure the customer is willing to pay for all of those increases. And so it's definitely changing how operators are running their business. And they're to some extent they're limiting the hours of operation. They're limiting the menus. They're trying to make things more efficient. And to some extent, and I'd love to get Adam to comment on this, but from a bottom line perspective, they're doing okay. I mean, they're able to really focus on those peak hours and peak times and scale down. And maybe revenues are down a little bit, but what we're seeing is EBITDA tends to be fairly strong right now. And obviously, there's still a lot of uncertainties. But Adam, would love to get your comment on that if you're seeing something a little bit differently.
No, I mean that's kind of spot on there. Like I said earlier, it's kind of doing more with less, right? So it's kind of like how a lot of businesses in the QSR realm and outside of it operated during the pandemic, which was, everybody was in a growth model, and then you just, hey, I got to survive. So I'm in a survival mode for the next 6 to 8 months, and when you come out of that, you're running pretty lean. You've kind of re-strategized in terms of what your priorities are and how you gain the most efficiencies. And a lot of people learned a lot during that time. So it was very hard and very gut wrenching for a lot of people, but you also is kind of, hey, we figured out how to do more with less people just showing up to work, right? So I think that was pretty neat. I think a lot of those trends are still continuing on. I think from a macro perspective, you're still seeing an economic growth in this country. And I think that's another competing demand, right? So, population growth is probably not outstripping growth just economically. So again, that's kind of leading to labor shortages. But I've seen a lot of creative solutions just trying to get people back to work. I know you mentioned, work today, get paid today. And that's, we've seen that trend a lot in the QSR realm. I wouldn't say it's mainstay right now. It's still kind of an emerging trend. But you do see a lot of kind of torchbearers start to emerge in those QSR brands. I know we've seen one at McDonald's and Wendy's and other ones. Some of those larger ones have come out with those sort of policies. And now it's starting to trickle down to the smaller franchisees as well. One of the other things that we're seeing on kind of the creative solutions is, it's really not even creative, but it's just the PTO policies are now starting to trickle down its way to the QSR world too. And, a lot of it's due like state mandatory policies, right, in the Northeast and out West, those of, from a compliance concern. But now you've seen this is just, with the introduction of the FFCRA during the pandemic, where it said they had a federal PTO policy. I think people got used to that. So now employers are really trying to really think through, okay, like how does a PTO program work, and kind of how does it, because it's really easy to administer from a policy perspective. The difficulty actually is all tech related in terms of where do the hours come in? Like how are the requests made? Are they made on a mobile device? Are they going into a form? Because if you're going to implement a policy, it's got to be easy to implement. So it's really thinking through tech architecture. And so we're in a lot of conversations with clients and prospects and really just vendors in terms of how do the tech data flows work within the organization is really to administer some of these sort of solutions to get people back to work, right? So like I said, it's easy from a solution. It's hard to put in practice a lot of times.
So are you guys spending a lot of time on the technology side, kind of implementing both the kind of pay as you go, I'll call it, as well as the tracking of hours for the new PTO policies?
Oh yeah. So on the pay as you go, we have our own module. We work with vendors with other point solutions as well. I think that's kind of here to stay, and that's not even just due from a QSR perspective. It's getting big in staffing vertical. So it's not even just this one industry that's really utilizing it. It is becoming pretty ubiquitous out there. We sure hope the IRS opines on some of the more finer points on that legislation, or really kind of how the tax ramifications work, but that's still wait and see. But yeah, so we have our own module. We see a high take rate on it right now. And it's funny, it's not even the crew people who you think would be taking it. A lot of it's at the manager level. And I think that's the most astonishing fact that we've seen, in that, it may not be, I think crew people and a lot of people at those wage levels learn to live with what they have. And then, it's not how much you take home, it's, inbound plus outbound in terms of how much your that take home is going to be. So anyway, so yeah, on the earned wage access, we've seen a high uptake there. PTO policies, again, I think that's becoming more of a norm for the industry, but it's just, how do you make it work with the point of sale system that's disconnected from an HR system, that's disconnected from another compliance metric that you're using for time and labor for scheduling? So when you have these disconnected point solutions, that's where the issues come in. It's not on the actual policies itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Cory, what's we talk about some of these creative solutions, and you guys have talked a little bit about what do you see as the long-term outlook here? What are you seeing your clients doing to try to remain competitive even post pandemic? We've talked a little bit about that, but are you starting to see that? And you mentioned, the other thing I'll ask you to comment is, you mentioned the minimum wage. Are you starting to see more and more of your clients adopting kind of this federal minimum wage that's been discussed, and how's that applying?
Yeah, absolutely, John. I think increasing wages is a hot topic, and I think that we're seeing a lot of companies come out with matching the federal limits, with actually even going above that. I think that's kind of a little bit of the trend. It's going to put a lot of the pressure on the operators, as we kind of talked about before. Not only is, when you increase that wage limit, but also you think about that, if you have a increased overall benefit, then you got to tack on overtime on top of that. I mean, you're continuously adding on, as far as, what you're paying, and maybe there needs to be a little bit of a kind of a set off to some extent, but that is definitely some tactics that a lot of firms are using, is we'll pay you more. And that's what we're seeing right now in such a tight market like we find ourselves. Like I said, I think the long-term outlook, at least hopefully it's the short term, is that, it does open up a little bit more and it becomes a little bit more relaxed towards maybe the end of the year. But I do think the holiday pressure is going to put some demand on kind of the ability to hire. So it may go into 2022, and that's what I'm reading for most of my publications. But we're seeing a lot of employees get promoted earlier now. I think that's a way to keep people, is to kind of move them up a particular wage class. And so I think it was maybe Whataburger, John, that decided to go ahead and promote a lot of their assistant managers to managers, and kind of give them a kind of a base, kind of cap, which is a good way to keep people. I've seen some franchisors and large systems step in and help out with some of the wage issues that are going on. From everywhere from a reduced royalty rate during this time, so that more money could be passed on to employees, to other incentives being offered at that level to kind of help out. One of the most creative I saw, I think it was a large McDonald's franchisee. It actually offered iPhones to new employees, which I thought that was kind of creative. And I think there was a 6-month retention. So I think it's after 6 months, then they provide you with an Apple iPhone. So they're getting very creative right now. And, but to Adam's point, I think they're kind of looking at their existing structure and figuring out what's needed, what maybe did we have before that wasn't as profitable. And so it's a great time to really look at your P&L and kind of figure it out from here. It's a good time to reset and kind of think about your business and where you see things. And, for those good operators, we're seeing this as an overall benefit. But to add up, there's a lot of changes, and, it's a very fluid market, and, technology is an area where a lot of this can be done, right? I mean, there's a lot of automation. There's a lot of things that can help implement some of these changes, and making sure you have the right back office structure to support this, I think, is very important kind of going forward. So definitely a dynamic environment. Hopefully, the next few months it'll start to calm down a little bit, but yeah, we're seeing it across the board.
So I'm going to kind of give you the last word here as we kind of wrap up the episode. So are you starting to build technology to capture the giveaway of the iPhone?
Well, now I am. I had not heard that. That is a great it's a great model. It's an outside the box, right? I think it's a great one. I mean, I think the other one here, the other one I've seen, John, that I think we just for 2 seconds is the outsourced labor solutions, which is taking that Uber gig economy sort of model. And I've seen some providers out there, and some, like I said, there's up in Chicago, there's another one down in Miami that's trying the same thing, which is trying to go to employees that have worked at QSR concepts and almost create this pool of applicants. Then to employers can then almost like get these people on as contractors on a gig basis. So if they have a peak demand on a Saturday night, they can go and say, hey, I'll go offer someone this job for, instead of $15, $16 an hour, maybe $20 an hour for a 3-hour shift. And then people can kind of pick them up based on, if they meet the qualifications. But that's the most interesting one that I've seen out there. Like I said, there's a couple different providers trying to pull this off, but something definitely to watch out for.
That's really interesting. It's the Uberization of things continues, I guess.
Yeah,
It does.
That's right.
Cory, are we going to Uberize the accounting industry?
We're working on it. We still have a ways to go, John, but we'll try to get out of the abacus world and the pen and paper at some point. We're doing what we can. We need Proliant to develop us some technology. I think that would help. But, it's all good things.
Awesome. Well, guys, I really appreciate you coming on the show and talk about this. I know there's a lot more we could talk about, and to that end, I'm sure that our viewers may want to get in touch with you. So, Cory, why don't you give the audience a way to get in touch with you if they want to talk more about what we talked about today?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, John. But once again, my name's Cory Bennett. I'm an audit partner, but I do lead or co-lead our hospitality practice. So any needs in that regard, feel free to reach out to me. And you can reach me at cory.bennett@btcpa.net or 678-302-1485.
Awesome. And Adam.
Yeah, again, Adam Clayton with Proliant, Chief Financial Officer. You can reach me at aclayton@proliant.com. That's PROLIANT. Or my office line, 770-395-1671. And feel free to answer any questions or just talk about what we talked about today.
Fantastic. Well, I really enjoyed the conversation. As always, very interesting. And this wraps up another episode of Think Business. Again, I'm John Yeager. You can reach me at john.yeager@btcpa.net. Or you can find me on social media at John Yeager. So hope everybody has a great day. And until next time, everybody take care. Bye-bye.